Hello, and welcome to Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, a host, and joining me today is good old Bob Pastorella, author of Mojo Rising and co-host of the This Is Whole podcast. Bob, how the hell are you doing today?
I am excellent, man. I'm really excited to be on Ghoulish. I like the way you say it, man. It's cool.
The contract I signed with myself means I have to pronounce it that way every time.
Every time, like even when you're not doing the podcast, you have to pronounce it like that.
Yeah, even when I'm not talking about the podcast, like if something spooky happens and I want to describe it as ghoulish, I have to say, "Oh my god, that was kind of ghoulish," or else I'll get sued by myself.
Wow, yeah, and that's the worst kind of sue right there.
Have you ever been sued by yourself, Bob?
No, I have been sued, but I've never been sued by myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
There was even other people being sued, so yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've never sued myself. That would be, I don't know. That's kind of it actually sounds kind of kinky.
Imagine being sued by someone named Sue.
Yes.
I don't think anyone named Sue is allowed to sue anyone because that's just pathetic.
I think so.
Yeah,
if
a judge saw that and they saw, wait a minute, this lady's name is Sue and she's suing someone? Get this out of my cult. No way. Next case.
I'm pretty sure that's like an official thing. It's in some D&D manual from 1984 or something.
Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah. Well, that's where most of our legal recourse comes from.
That is true. Bob, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the concept of what the people call elevated horror.
Who are these people?
Well, a lot of it comes from critics.
Critics who they love it?
Well, they like to use the term because they're afraid to just call something horror.
Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense to use elevated in front of it. Like, I don't know, what if people just in the mood to watch like a spooky elevator movie? I mean, now you got it. Like, how else would you describe the movie Devil?
Well, I mean, I guess in some part that film, you're talking about the M. Night Shyamalan film, that film could be described somewhat as elevated horror because it uses a completely, somewhat original location. There's some confinement there that's natural, you have these people, and I guess part of the game of the film is figuring out, which person is the evil entity,
Well, plus it takes place on an elevator, Bob.
Well, yeah, I mean that's like the whole thing, and I think because of that type of setting, that it actually, it could be one that's it's called elevated horror. I mean, I've never really thought of it as that.
Now, is any movie that features an elevator considered this subgenre? Like, would Cabin in the Woods be considered elevated horror because of that elevator scene at the end? Well, even Silence of the Lambs, because there's a great elevator scene in it.
Well, I mean, those films could be, definitely elevated horror.
I have a question, Bob. How do they get all that blood in the elevator in The Shining?
That is a good question, but that is definitely a film that I would consider to be, if a critic would look at The Shining today as it being a new film and would see that, they would say that this is a film that's definitely elevated horror. I guess they're trying to kind of go against your typical B title movie, like your Friday the 13th, your Nightmare on Elm Street. Though you could say that a New Nightmare, because it is kind of more, I guess, metafictional, that it kind of rises above the chaff.
Do you think Jason Voorhees has ever taken an elevator?
Well, I mean, I've seen most of those, and I don't know. I don't know if he has or not. Uh, and I can't think of any Friday the 13th film
I
that
can
would be
think of a
considered.
bunch of Friday the 13th
Well, I
films.
mean,
Friday the
any of them
13th,
that would
Friday the
be.
13th 2. Those are two of them.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, from the way you're talking to me right now, I get the sense that I may be a little bit off base on what an elevated horror film means. Is that
Okay.
correct? Because I can't.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of getting this kind of vibe here that there might be a little confusion. I mean, to me, I think elevated horror is, I guess, what the critics call it is horror that is more cerebral. It's more, you know, it rises above the chaff of direct to video releases that you get, 100 of them a month, and are largely watched one time and then forgotten. I think that the elevated horror term is what they use for movies that are extremely polarizing. You have half the people love them, half the people hate them. A great example of that is, Hereditary. Other films that are like Us, where they use a little
You
bit
and
more
I?
high concept. What's that?
What about us?
Well, that's one of the films that they've said that could possibly go into what they call elevated horror. I'm not a big fan of the term. I understand what it means. And I guess because it is something that's being widely used, even though a lot of people in horror don't want the term used, it's something that you have to recognize.
Now,
Um,
is this the same as what some folks would call arthouse horror?
yeah, I think so. With
Okay, now I'm with you then. I kind of began picking up on this lingo around the time The Witch came out and It Follows.
hmm
So it's if I have this right, I would say this this terminology basically means anything that doesn't rely on jump skills. It's more of a drama, correct?
right, and define jump scare.
Well,
I
to
would
to
say.
me, it's when something really spooky jumps.
hmm
So like a clown, if you saw a clown jumping, you would go, "Oh my god, now that's a jump skill."
So let me ask you this:
Okay.
Can you have a subtle jump scare?
Well, no, because you have to kind of. I mean, you can't slowly jump.
Right. Okay. As far as a physical thing, but can the effect itself be subtle enough to make you go ooh?
The effect of someone jumping.
No, the effect that they're trying to use the actual the scare tactic. For example, like in Hereditary,
Yes.
when Annie finds her mother's stuff and she's looking, we get an image of her mom watching her in the room,
Okay.
and it's not a jump scare.
No one jumps at
It's
all. They're
No
just
one jumps at
standing.
all.
Yeah.
She's just standing there. But when you notice it, it does make you do have somewhat of a very subtle physical reaction to that. that. I know I did because I didn't expect it. I just happened, I was like, what is she looking at? And then suddenly you see her mom, you know, very, very faint, but you can definitely see her. And it caused me to go, oh, okay. What is she doing there? She's dead. That doesn't make any sense. So to me, that's still a jump scare. It's just a very subtle, very creepy jump scare. And to me, it's like when they're like that, they're effective. Now, can Ari Aster use that same technique again? It's going to be interesting to see if he does. You know, I have a feeling that he probably won't because he's more of like an auteur. He's going to try different approaches. You know, and I have a feeling he's probably not going to do that particular technique again.
I like the movies he's made, the one I've seen at least, and I have a feeling the new one's going to be great as well. But I do suspect he might be slightly responsible for some of this pretentious elevated full subcategorizing. I don't know if you've read many interviews with him, but he tends to shy away from labeling his movie as full. He likes to just say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, this is just a drama."
Mm-hmm.
And
He has said that, but I
yeah,
think he's finally come full circle. And in a more recent interview, I think one that was probably conducted within the last 6 months, he has come around full circle and
has
said
he?
unabashedly that Hereditary is indeed a horror film.
Oh, well, that's
Uh,
great. That's good then. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
I just
it's great
recall.
that the creator finally agreed with us on what he
Yeah,
made.
I
Yeah.
recall when it was coming out, he was pretty shy about that, and I don't know. I guess this genre that we dedicate so much of our time to is still, I mean, surprisingly enough, it's just not like the general public doesn't seem to accept it still, and it's odd. But I also don't think that's completely true. I think maybe like the folks with money don't seem to think it's being accepted so much, but it kind of
Mm-hmm.
is. I mean, the past half a decade, I would say, the genre, especially in film land, has just really been on a winning streak. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all these films that people keep calling elevated, mostly films produced by A24. It looks like, and maybe that's just like a marketing tactic on that company's side. I don't know.
Well, I think that A24 to me is like the modern incarnation of horror, of House of Horror, of Hammer Horror from England. The films years ago. They did a lot of horror films. They also did a lot of I guess adventure films. They did a lot of drama films. But primarily horror, and it seems that A24 likes horror. They've embraced it. And I'm on record as saying that, to me, the term elevated horror is a term used by lazy critics who don't like horror to explain how they liked a horror movie.
It's almost like they'll
Uh,
embarrass to admit it.
yes, yes. And they
Yeah.
shouldn't be, here's the thing, they shouldn't be embarrassed to admit it. Um, I still think, and like what you were saying, there's still like a business aspect of it. There's some of that old guard who doesn't think horror sells. I mean, prime example is DC Universe's cancellation of Swamp Thing. There's so many stories going around about why this thing got canceled, and every one of them have pretty much been debunked. So now you're left with a cancellation of a show that only has one season, and typically it seems that the people who have created it don't know why it got canceled. They're like completely lost. You have people, you have cast, we have crew, we have people who are now suddenly out of a job for no reason at all. And I suspect it's because there's some, person who's following too many trends and following too many outdated logarithms and things like that. And they're overanalyzing everything. And ultimately they're going, hey, man, this stuff just ain't selling. And it's like, what data are you using? Are you using data from 2007? Because for the last 12 years, we've seen a steady increase of horror films, and we've seen them become successful. We are very, very close to hitting a critical mass on this to where it's going to be so oversaturated that most of us who don't like the term elevated horror are going to start embracing it and actually seeking it out, because somewhere along the lines, there's actually a difference between a really smart horror film that doesn't rely on jump scares, that doesn't rely on cheap tactics, and the chaff of crap that they're going to release for the next 10 years. You know, Sci-Fi Network, I'm not real big on the Sharknado movies. I've watched part of one and had to turn it off because I had a feeling that there was a possibility I was going to stick something in my neck. It was absolutely terrible. I know people like it. I'm glad that people like those kind of genre movies, even though I don't like them, because that means it's easier for them to jump to something else that is actually worthwhile, you know? So it's, I don't know. It's kind of a weird time. I understand what the term elevated horror is. I don't like it, but I understand it. And I see that there's a need to be able to address it. I just, to me, I think, horror is horror. And you should like it, and you can find horror in anything. It's all horror. That's been my motto for years. You can find horror in a crime story. You can find horror, and you can find horror in science fiction, romance, mystery. Doesn't matter. There's some type of horror there. Is if it is a horrific experience for one of the characters, to me that defines it as partly horror.
I agree with you completely, Bob. I mean, I don't know, like, it just seems like a way to say, no, this movie's different, it's intelligent, which is kind of snobbish, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why weren't you using this film back when Rosemary's Baby came out?
No, and
How
they
is that
call
different?
that film a suspense film.
Exactly, yeah. Everybody is so afraid of just embracing this genre. Still in 2019, it's strange. I mean, look how they marketed Get Out. They called it a social thriller. Get the fuck out of here. No, really, get out, Bob.
No, no, but I really liked what when Us came out, what Jordan Peele, said about Us. He said it's a horror film.
That was kind of insulting when he said that about Us.
No, the film Us, not Us, Us.
He just walked up to us and said, "You guys, you guys are a whole film." Then he just walked away.
Yeah, y'all guys are a horror film. He said it in his Ray Parker Jr. voice too.
Yeah, and then he spit in all faces. Quite rude, that man.
Have you ever seen that skit he did on Key and Peele with Ray Parker Jr.?
Yeah, I've seen all of them, I think.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Where he sings the other songs other than Ghostbusters, the ones that did make it into the films. Oh man, that's hilarious stuff, man. This is so funny.
Anybody who watched that show but was still somehow surprised that he branched out into the whole genre, I don't know what they were watching, because they did so many kind of terrifying sketches on that show. I mean, did you see the one with what the fuck is his name? Did I do that? What the hell is his name?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fucking the guy from that dumb sitcom. He would always say, "Did I do that?"
No,
you don't know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, Urkel.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they did a skit about him, and it was absolutely terrifying. Like, he had mind abilities. He can control people and make them kill themselves. So it's
Did
strange.
I do
Did
that?
I
I need to check that out.
It's really good, man. But a lot of those sketches, especially like the Halloween special ones, you could tell that both of them really loved the genre. So it made sense once he began making all these movies.
I think that horror in some ways has been saved by people involved with comedy, and because there's a fine line there between performing comedy and doing comedy and making people laugh and making people scared. There's not much of a lot of that stuff kind of bleeds over a little bit. I mean, look at Robin Williams, probably one of the funniest people that's ever lived,
Without question. Yeah.
who also could at the drop of a hat turn into a character that could scare the shit out of you.
I'm drawing a blank. What are you talking about, Hill?
Well, like 1 Hour Photo.
Okay, I've seen that.
His dramatic turns are
Yeah.
quite chilling because he has that ability, he has that empathy where he can tap in and he understands those type of characters or understood those type of characters. You have people like Seth Rogen doing Preacher. You have people like Jordan Peele doing horror movies, The Twilight Zone. You have who is it? I think Chris Rock wants to bring back Saw. And it's like
he's gonna be directing or maybe writing the next installment.
Yeah,
I don't know.
like, and people are like going, and at first, even me, I was kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
Really? And then I'm like, oh, what, man, this makes perfect sense because to be able to make people laugh, you're able to get a visceral reaction. Those same people have the ability to scare the crap out of you, and they're wanting to get that same type of visceral reaction to it. So, as much as it's kind of like you don't want to, say, oh, well, it's kind of like Robert Pattinson being Batman. It's like already people are like, oh my God, he's gonna sparkle.
Listen,
shut up.
Anyone freaking out about Robert Pattinson being in the movie is a idiot because that guy is super talented. I love him.
He is.
He was amazing in A Good Time. He's great in The Rover. He's awesome in The Lost City of Z. I mean, he can do no wrong.
I haven't seen The Rover, but I have it on the Blu-ray. I just need to watch it.
You should, yeah. I would consider that elevated hull, definitely.
Oh, okay.
No.
Without any elevators.
Yeah, but it's in Australia, and they don't have those in Australia. Have you ever seen one? No.
No. They have escalators, though, in Australia.
Yeah, but they only go down.
Well, do you know that an escalator can never be broken?
It could be evolve into steps.
Right. You won't see a sign that says sorry, escalator, is broken. You'll see a sign that says thank you, escalator is now stairs. Sorry, they'll apologize for the convenience of that.
Have you ever tried walking up or down a broken escalator?
Yes, I have walked up a broken escalator.
I don't like it.
The steps are tall and far apart.
And plus, looking at them,
we're gonna make stairs that suck.
Yeah, they kind of blend in, and it's difficult to tell like how big of a step you have to do. I don't like anything about it. Has there ever been a movie that took place only on an escalator?
No, not that I'm aware of. Though, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential for horror there. There's probably been scenes where there's been something that's happened on an escalator.
Yeah, definitely. Look at American Werewolf in London.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I mean, the whole running time on an escalator. We could be the pioneers of escalated horror, Bob.
Escalated horror, I love it. That would be like the fucking deal. It's like you'd have one film that it could have like the whole focus is on the escalator.
Dude.
And another film to where the escalator is like so big and so huge that you don't even realize you're on an escalator till the end. It's like Planet of the Apes, you know. You damn dirty apes, you know.
A
So
bunch of monkeys on an escalator? Yeah, I'm okay with that.
no, I'm just using it as an
I
example,
know,
like
but
when he's seen the Statue of Liberty, you
I
know.
know, but I'm giving this idea a second draft, and now they're all monkeys.
Ah, well, you know, there's nothing wrong with monkey horror.
If that's the next subgenre, monkey hole.
Yeah.
But if we were doing this, I think what you need to do is you have a group of people. Maybe they go to a mall. They don't know each other, but they all get on this escalator at the same time, and it
Mm-hmm.
keeps going up and up and up. It's like, wait a minute, where the hell is this going? Are we ever gonna get to our destination? And the whole movie is like, this thing is not gonna stop, and there's no end in sight. And they try to go back down, but I mean, it's going too fast. It keeps pushing them up.
Mm-hmm.
And
To where?
heaven? I don't know.
To another dimension. You know, and that reminds me too, going back to elevated horror, that the remake of Dawn of the Dead, when they make it to the mall, and I'm pretty sure that this is actually in the original too. I mean, it's been so long, so long since I've seen it, but they have that scene where they're in the elevator and the elevator's playing that song, Lady from Ipanema, whatever it's called. And the guy's like, you know, I like this. That scene takes that film up another notch. Well, basically, it's like this is the last time that anything's going to ever feel normal again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that one little sense of, hey, I like this song.
I know there's a scene in the original, at least. Well, the camera is pointing out, like it's inside the elevator, and it's pointing to the door, and it opens. And a handful of zombies come rushing in
Right.
at the camera.
And I would consider that those Romero films are, not only do they feature elevators
And escalators.
and escalators, but they're elevated because they're social commentary.
I think maybe elevated hole is just someone's way of saying it's a good movie.
So you don't think that they actually have to have elevators in them?
You know, I'm coming around. I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. Another good elevated hole movie I love is Final Destination 2. There's a great scene where someone's head gets stuck in an elevator, and guess what happens?
Yeah, they die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the head pops off. Bob, have you ever gotten stuck in an elevator?
For a very, very brief period of time. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like less than 3 minutes. In an elevator years ago, did get stuck between floors.
How did you pass the time?
They had a phone in there, and there was other people in the elevator, so they had a little phone on the wall.
Yeah.
And they opened the little door where the phone is, and they picked up the phone, and it has, I think you had to dial, O for the operator, but it was the operator to the building.
Right.
And they said, hey, we think that the elevator's stuck in between floors because it's not moving anymore. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're aware of the situation, and we're doing something right now. It should just be just a few minutes. Do not panic, and we're like going, okay. And then, they hung up the phone, and the next thing you know, it goes up to the next floor, and it opened, and there was somebody there saying, hey, y'all just need to get off. Don't go back up. Don't go up or down on it.
Wow.
And they did something to keep the doors open and put a sign out.
Intense. Wow.
Because I seen the sign later, when I was walking past the elevators to the stairs. Because once that happens, it's kind of like, the stairs are good. Stairs are good.
How long do you think it would have taken before you decided, okay, I'm going to have to eat one of these other people?
Well, that would have probably taken a long, long, long time.
Like
probably
10 minutes?
probably at least 30 or 40.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it all depends on how hungry, you know. And plus, if I had like a meeting or something like that, I'd have to figure out a way, to make sure that I didn't get, nothing on my clothes, because, it's not really that the fact that you ate someone that's frowned upon. It's the fact that you got your suit dirty or something like that. That can, especially if you're like going into a job interview, that could be pretty bad. It's like, man, I'm sure you were hungry and everything like that, but could you have at least kept your tie clean?
Wow, Bob, what an elevated answer to such a delicate question. You really took this beyond the normal type of response, and wow.
Well, I aim to please.
What do you usually aim?
Yeah, right. Because you want to be when you go to those type of meetings and stuff like that, man, and you're especially if you look for a job, you want to be what's the term? What do they call it? You want to be dressed to kill. That's a freaking good elevated elevator horror movie.
You just took this from 10 to 11, Bob.
I just cranked it up to one more.
Wow.
Dressed to Kill. A little problematic. Of course, it's Brian De Palma, so it's people say, "Well, Brian De Palma's a little problematic," but I like it. It's like, what the fuck did you expect? It's Brian fucking De Palma. He's gonna be problematic. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah, that's what I always say whenever I'm doing something. I say, "Hey, if you don't like it, don't watch it."
Right. Yeah. I watched Dressed to Kill last year, and yeah, it left a icky feeling on me, but at the same time, I think that's the point, and I think that's what Brian was after. It's like he wants you to take a shower after that, movie, and hopefully by yourself without someone reaching up behind you like Angie Dickinson.
Now we haven't mentioned this, but Bob, right now you are actually dressed to kill. I wasn't gonna say anything about this, but you do have a lot of spikes on you. What's going on with this?
Well, I do.
I'm. What are you reading right now, Bob?
I am just started Growing Things by Paul Tremblay.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is about erections, right?
There could be some in there, So, Paul's a new writer. He's got about 10 books out, and I think he's going places. So,
I'm excited about that collection. I don't have it yet, but I'm excited. Paul's great.
Yeah, he's freaking awesome. And so I just started reading it. And I just finished Black Mountain.
And so did I, yeah.
By Laird Barron. So so that was excellent. And somewhat horror adjacent too. I thought that was pretty cool. That's another term we probably need to have a whole other show of that people are coming up with. It's like, well, it's not horror, it's horror adjacent.
I'll release that episode at the same time as this episode.
Okay, so this is part of that horror adjacent episode too?
So the episode, yeah, it'll be side by side.
Oh, okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what's up with this horror adjacent? I mean, I understand the terminology. It's like it's almost horror, but it's not. It shares some similarities. The product is actually kind of lean into horror, to the supernatural, but it doesn't quite go there. Prime example of that would be season 1 of True Detective, where you have this kind of this thing is immersed in concepts of the supernatural, but yet the story itself is not supernatural. That's a term I actually like because it makes sense. Black
Mountain's a good example of that.
Exactly. There's definitely some horror adjacent stuff going on there. It's like a lot of people. When I went and saw, Laird at Murder by the Book when Blood Standard came out, some people were asking him about, is this series ever going to, dive into horror? And his answer was kind of kind of along the lines of horror adjacent. He said there definitely there's going to be some horrific things that happen, but he doesn't feel like the series will actually go into a full blown supernatural type of situation.
I think it would be strange if it did.
Right.
Doesn't feel like that type of universe to me.
No, it doesn't. But I do like the direction that he's going with this. And here's the thing: it doesn't matter if it goes to the supernatural or not. That's not the reason that we read Laird Barron. If the only reason that you read Laird Barron is because he has the ability to go supernatural with the story, then you're kind of missing the whole point.
Do you know why I read him?
Why?
He is great at elevator scenes.
Yes.
Top of the craft, I would say.
Probably in as far as like the written elevated, yes.
Yeah, I mean he can describe a trip from floor 1 to floor 10 with such terrifying descriptions. I mean, oh my God. It seems like I'm the one riding up that elevator and not the protagonist.
Right.
But do you know what else I would like to know? How can folks find you online, Bob?
They can find me online on Twitter at Bob Pastorella, at Bob Pastorella. That's all they need to do is just search at the at symbol. That's just the A with the circle in it.
Yeah, they know what it is.
Not the ampersand, not the pound sign, not percentage, but the at circle A, Bob Pastorella, Pastorella. And I also have bobpastorella.com, which is my blog, which I have knocked the dust off of, and it's going to be my kind of long form outlet. And of course, I'm at thisishorror.co.uk.
But you don't live in the UK, Bob.
No, I do not. No,
Wow.
I share an address, but no, I do not.
I would love it if you and Michael lived in the same house.
Yeah, there'd be a lot more podcasts, probably.
Definitely. Do you have anything else to promote before we close this out?
Mojo Rising. I'm always promoting Mr. Mojo Rising.
Hell yeah. If you're listening to this, go buy Mojo Rising. It benefits both of us since I published it and he wrote it. It's a good novella. Do it up.
It's a good novella. It's worth the $10. It's worth the $3 on the ebook. There's so much packed in there. It's just fully packed with crazy.
Talk about insane elevator scenes. I'm not gonna get into it, but in Mojo Rising, Mojo he rises in an elevator.
And he goes to that weird floor.
10.
Yeah, he do.
All right, Bob. Well, thank you for doing this episode. We'll have to have you on again to talk about escalators in detail.
Yes, anytime.
Okay, goodbye, Bob.
See you, Max.
Thank you for listening to Ghoulish. Did you like what you just heard? Want to listen to these episodes daily instead of weekly? Well, you are in luck, Daddy-O, because over on Patreon, we've announced a new stretch goal. Once we begin making 1,000 bones a month, we will begin releasing Ghoulish 5 nights a week. That's 1,000 bones, my sweet, beautiful, spooky children. Now go on over to patreon.com/PMM Publishing to pledge now, today, right this second, don't wait. You can also follow this show at ghoulishpod.com and tweet at us at ghoulishpod. Please rate and review us on iTunes, and do not forget, whatever you do, live spooky, die spooky.